Hey everyone, so this weekend we have Zhang versus Wilder and the rest of the 5v5 in Saudi. The main event was supposed to be Beterbiev versus Bivol, and that's been my most anticipated fight for the past, I think, 4 years. Beterbiev and Bivol are two of my favorite fighters, and I've just been really excited for that fight to happen. And of course, it gets canceled. Of course, Beterbiev gets injured. I swear every year he gets injured once at least, and that's why he only fights once a year. But hopefully that happens later on in the year. Today I'll be talking about Zhang versus Wilder and what my prediction will be for that. So the way I look at this fight is you have two guys that are essentially at the end of their careers and two massive power punchers. Now, if we look at both of their careers, in my opinion, if you look at their resumes, I know Wilder's been one of the top three or top four heavyweights for the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years, however long it's been. I remember back when Wilder versus Joshua was being hyped up as the big fight, the big heavyweight fight between the two top guys. Then Joshua lost to Ruiz, and then Fury came in and fought Wilder, and then it was between those two guys and whatever. So for the past half of a decade at least, it's been Wilder up there at least in the top three. But if you take a look at Wilder's resume, the truth is there's basically no one of consequence that he's beaten. So far in Wilder's career, the three best guys that he's faced are Fury at number one, I guess, Parker at number two, and Luis Ortiz at number three. And he lost to Fury in all three fights, in my opinion. He lost to Parker very convincingly every single round in his last fight. And his third best opponent, Luis Ortiz, I mean, that was a good win. That's Wilder's by far Wilder's best win. So I believe that's also the last southpaw that Wilder's faced. And I took a look at that fight. I took a look at the first and second Ortiz fights in preparation for this prediction. And I looked at Zhang's last few fights. I also looked up Wilder's last fight against Parker, even though stylistically it's not really similar to Zhang. I still like to see how he looked recently. And well, let's just get to it. I'm gonna try and make this prediction quicker than my last Usyk Fury prediction. That one I think was like 35 minutes or something like that. I'm gonna try and make this quicker. The truth is, I don't think Wilder can deal with this kind of southpaw. If you look at the Ortiz fight, I know people are talking about his last Parker fight and saw how he threw very little punches and had very little success, and everyone says that he shot. He doesn't have the same aggressiveness that he used to against Fury, against Ortiz, against all the guys he's fought. But the truth is, Ortiz is the only good fighter he's beat. And if you look at those two fights, I don't see anything special or anything out of the ordinary when you compare the Ortiz fights to the Parker fight. Okay, maybe he threw a few more punches, but none of those punches were landing against Ortiz. And the fact is, if you even look at that second fight, he was losing every single round until he landed that big right hand. Every single round. And the fact is, Luis Ortiz was about 107 years old, and every single punch that he's taken from other heavyweights since that point, or even before then, he gets hurt very easily. And I don't see the same thing with Zhang. So the truth is, I don't think Wilder's ever been a good boxer. I don't think anybody disputes that, to be honest. Everyone knows that he's a sloppy boxer. And if you look at his whole career, he always loses rounds. This isn't like a new thing that's just happened with Parker. The only reason why people are talking about it now is because he ended up losing every single round and lost the entire fight and didn't have any success in that fight. But the truth is, look at him versus Fury in the first fight. That was the exact same fight as the Parker fight until he got him with the right hand in the ninth round and the 12th round. And then everybody said, oh, see, this is a really close fight. Wow. Wilder is the top heavyweight. The truth is, no. He was getting outboxed the whole time. Fury was sloppy. Fury was a fat slob in that fight. And he still basically won, in my opinion, other than those two knockdowns. And so in the Parker fight, it was basically a replay of the Fury fight, except Parker was more aggressive and he ended up countering Wilder's right hand. He didn't, even Fury against Wilder, he never actually decided to fight fire with fire. And that's what Parker and his team was saying in the lead up to that fight. They said, we're going to fight fire with fire. And I was thinking, oh, wow, is he going to try and trade right hands with Wilder? And indeed, that's what he ended up doing. And it was very successful because Wilder telegraphs the right hand. When he throws the 1-2, he does this little hop forward where he extends his lead hand, throwing a jab kind of, but he uses it as a rangefinder, hops forward, and then throws a big right hand. And every time he was doing that, guess what Parker was doing? He would lean down, duck down, put his head down, and throw an overhand right, and he was catching Wilder consistently, and that's why Wilder was scared to throw it in that fight. So, again, Zhang isn't the same as Parker, but in my opinion, Zhang is one of the best counterpunchers in the heavyweight division, and if you compare their two performances, I know everyone says Zhang has a shit gas tank, and it's true, his gas tank's terrible. In fact, I'm gonna be honest, if boxing was a 5 rounds, I think Zhang would be undefeated. I think Zhang would be the top heavyweight in the division. And I still think he can give other top heavyweights serious problems. In fact, I know people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think Zhang actually beat Parker. I thought he won at least 5 or 6 of the rounds. If you look at clean and effective punches, I thought Zhang was doing very good defensively. He has a very tight guard, and the punches that Parker were throwing, very few of them were landing. And you can't score punches that are just hitting the guard and being blocked. Those aren't scoring punches. But yeah, so I saw Parker throwing a bunch of punches, not landing anything, and then Zhang would let go of a straight left or a right hook every once in a while. And to me, those scoring blows won him the round. But it's okay. I still like Parker, and I'm not mad at that decision. I just personally, with the 2 knockdowns and with a better shot selection from Zhang, I had him winning that fight. But aside from that, yes, he does gas. After the fifth, sixth round, Zhang is basically useless. I mean, I know he scored the knockdown in the 8th round, I think it was, against Parker. But aside from that, he slows down tremendously, and he's not close to as effective as he is in the first half, especially in the first 4 rounds. Zhang is extremely dangerous. In fact, I think he's the hardest puncher in the division. The guy's about 290 pounds, and he just extends his arms, and people are convulsing on the floor. So I know everyone says, oh, Wilder's a big puncher, Wilder's the biggest puncher, but compare the guys they fought. Before Zhang fought Joyce, Joyce was considered a juggernaut. Nobody could hurt this guy. People were landing flesh shots on him and he'd barely budge. And then Zhang took him out, knocked him out cold with the biggest right hook I've ever seen in my life, I think. And yeah, so I think Zhang's one of the biggest punchers, and I think he's a very smart puncher. He knows how to set his shots up, and he's a very dangerous and sneaky counter puncher. So, in my opinion, when you look at their stamina, I don't think either of these guys have good stamina. You look at everyone says that he throws very few punches. Compare Zhang versus Parker to Wilder versus Parker. The fact is, Zhang actually threw 70 more punches than Wilder did in those fights. So, in my opinion, their gas tanks, their output is around the same. And Zhang is a much better boxer, much better counterpuncher. He's a much bigger guy, can take a shot much better. Look at his massive Chinese cranium. That thing will absorb punches. And I think, honestly, I think he could take a few Wilder right hands. So, my money's on Zhang. I think this is not an easy fight because I know Wilder's still a big puncher. There's no doubt about that. And Zhang doesn't move his head. He doesn't have fast feet. So there is a chance that Wilder can catch him and maybe knock him out. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Wilder, since the criticism that he got for the Parker fight, I think he's going to try and throw the right hand early, and I think that's a mistake. I actually think it would be better for him to fight how he did in the Parker fight, but I think he's going to get desperate early, and I think he's going to try and throw right hands. And what I think is going to happen is I think by the 2nd round, Wilder's going to get desperate. He's going to say, I'm just going to throw the right hand. I'm going to let it all out in the ring. And I think what he's going to do, he's going to hop in with that big right hand. He might even land one of them. But I don't think it's going to take Zhang out. And he's going to hop in with another one. And Zhang is a very good counterpuncher. And I've seen him in multiple fights where he counters a straight right by slipping to the outside of that straight right, since it's a southpaw, slips to the outside while simultaneously throwing a right hook and then following up with a straight left. And I think Wilder's going to be right there. Doesn't move his head. Wilder has probably the worst defense in the top of the heavyweights. Maybe, I mean, comparable to Joe Joyce, but at least, yeah, he has terrible defense. He's similar to Joe Joyce. He's just not as slow, I guess. He's faster with his hands, at least. But I think he's going to be right there for the right hand. I think Zhang can even though Zhang has slow feet, I think he'll be able to cut off the ring and get Wilder in corners at certain parts of the fight. I think there's way more chances for Zhang to knock out Wilder than there is for Wilder to knock out Zhang. So my pick is I think it's going to become early too. I think in the 2nd round, Wilder's going to throw a big right hand, and Zhang is going to counter him, and I think he's going to knock him out cold very quickly. So my pick is a 2nd round knockout for Zhilei Zhang. If I break this down into percentages, I think this is an 80-20 type fight. I think 80% Zhang, and I give Wilder a 20% puncher's chance, basically. So that's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and see you guys in the next fight.